Hi there, students! I'm Puppy-Sensei, the puppy girl Japanese teacher VTuber. I make Japanese language content to help you level up your abilities. So as you likely already know, every week I put out a quick grammar drop episode where I discuss a single Japanese grammar point. Today's lesson is going to be a particularly elementary one. It's a very basic Japanese grammar point that you would most likely learn in a first-year Japanese class, maybe even the first days of a Japanese class. So if you're one of my more advanced students, this might be a good one to skip. Go practice your vocabulary! For those of you who are newer to the study of Japanese, today we're going to be covering the difference between aru and iru. Aru and iru are known as verbs of existence in Japanese. Some verbs in Japanese we would think of as active verbs. Running, jumping, eating, smiling. These are all things that you actively do. Aru and iru are generally speaking considered more passive verbs. They aren't verbs that express doing something actively, rather they are verbs that express the existence of a thing. There's something that we have to address right away. You'll see it noted here on the grammar card, but this cannot be overstated. Japanese has two verbs of existence, one for animate objects and one for inanimate objects. When you're talking about something non-living, like a car, you would say, kuruma ga aru. Kuruma ga aru. That means there is a car. But if you're talking about a person or an animal, or something that can move around on its own, then you're going to use iru, as in inu ga iru. Inu ga iru. That means there is a dog. It's important to use care when using these verbs because we don't have a system like this in English, so you don't want to get them confused. You're also going to notice that usually, but not universally, when we're using these verbs of existence, we're going to pair them with the particle ga. If you haven't learned about particles yet, don't worry. I have plenty of videos where I talk about the use of particles in Japanese. Here, though, you can basically remember ga aru and ga iru are the most common particle plus verb combination that express the idea of something existing. Let's look at some example sentences. Uchi de karai kare ga aru. Uchi de karai kare ga aru. This is a sentence that we can translate into English as, I have some spicy curry at home. But let's break this down so that we can really simply understand what exactly is being conveyed through this sentence. Uchi means your home. Japanese has a homophone, a word that sounds exactly the same, just like uchi, which means inside, or your inner group, right? So it's uchi, inside, soto, outside, right? They use a different kanji, but they're both pronounced uchi, and they're kind of related to one another, right? Your inside and your home, both of these are like the area that is closest to you, where you feel the safest and where you feel the most comfortable. In this case, uchi here is marked with the particle de. De is indicating a location of something. Uchi de. Uchi de means in the house. Now, de can also be a particle that means something gets used in a certain particular way. So, using this, nani nani nani, something happens, right? But in this case, this de is marking a location. It is happening where? It's happening in the house. Uchi de. We usually might translate this as at home, but we don't have to. The sentence could just as easily mean something like, there is some spicy curry in the house. Karai is an e adjective. A specific type of Japanese adjective that we're not going to cover today, but just know that it's an e adjective, and e adjectives conjugate in a very specific way. We won't talk about that conjugation at the moment, but karai just means spicy. So when you see karai, just know that that's talking about some very spicy hot food. Yeah? Karai here is describing kare. Kare, we usually think of as specifically referring to Japanese-style curry. Curry. And finally, we have ga aru in this sentence. Ga aru here means there is, it exists, or I have. That's that aru verb, and immediately before it is the ga particle. Ga is a tricky particle. It can mean the subject of a sentence, but it's very, very frequently linked with this aru, iru combination to say that something exists. I've decided to translate this sentence as, I've got some spicy curry at home. But again, you could translate this sentence in other ways, such as, there is spicy curry at home, or some spicy curry exists at home. Something like that. Now, I'm going to make some very small changes to this example sentence, but I want you to keep in mind the specific sentence that we've already looked at so that we can contrast these. Our new sentence is going to be, Uchi de chisai neko ga iru. Uchi de chisai neko ga iru. This sentence means, I've got a little cat at home. This is also not true. I kind of wish it was true, but I can't have a cat because I'm allergic. But anyway, the sentence still means, I've got a little cat at home. Uchi de chisai neko ga iru. Again, when I'm translating these sentences as I have, keep in mind that I'm being pretty liberal. There are actually other ways to express ownership in Japanese, and technically these sentences are only expressing existence and not necessarily ownership. But in Japanese, the sentiment is somewhat the same. There is, I have, there exists. The line between these ideas is a bit fuzzy in the Japanese language, and that's okay. We just need to keep it in mind as translators as we consider how we want our sentences to sound in English. Now, again, let's compare our two sentences, our aru sentence and our iru sentence. Okay? So, uchi de karai kare ga aru and uchi de chisai neko ga iru. Really, at the heart of both of these sentences, we're more or less expressing the same core semantic content. We've got a noun, right? Uchi de. And we're talking about in that specific noun, or in that place. Uchi de, in the house, at home. Uchi de, there exists some other noun. And we're expressing that idea of existence through ga aru or ga iru. So we have kare ga aru, there is curry, or neko ga iru, there is a kitty cat. And we're also specifying what type of noun it is. Karai, spicy, or chisai, little. In English, we could create a very, very simple outline for these sentences like this. Noun phrase, adjective, noun phrase, verb. The difference between English and Japanese here is that our verb is going to change depending on whether the thing that we're talking about is a living thing or a non-living thing. This can get complicated, and we can have arguments about whether some noun needs to be an aru noun, non-living, or an iru noun, living. For example, trees in Japanese are aru nouns. They aren't animate, so they aren't treated as nouns that use iru. Instead, they use aru. They may be living things, but they aren't exactly animate, and so we do not use the iru verb of existence when we're talking about trees. Today is going to be a very quick lesson, but there's one more thing that I wanted to address in these aru and iru verbs of existence. In Japanese, we use a system called polite language, tenego. You might know it as the des mas tai, or the des mas form. We use this to express our sentences in a more polite way. You use tenego when you're talking to somebody who might be at a maybe a higher job or a higher social rank than you. And as a result, if you were talking to, say, your teacher, you would make a very small change to each of your sentences here. Let's see that in action. Uchi de karai kare ga arimasu. See, our aru has become arimasu, and that makes it more polite. And likewise, uchi de chisai neko ga imasu. Iru becomes imasu. Our sentences become this uchi de karai kare ga arimasu and uchi de chisai neko ga imasu. It's important to keep in mind that this does not change the meaning of the sentence in any way, shape, or form. They mean exactly the same thing. The only grammatical difference at all is that when we change aru and iru to arimasu and imasu, we're speaking a bit more politely and showing a little bit more respect to the person that we're speaking to. So that's a very simple, very elementary lesson. I have a surprise for you soon, so please watch out on Saturday for a short announcement video. I hope you have a great weekend ahead. Remember, you get a gold star today for being such diligent students. I'll see you soon. Mata ne!